Just like to offer a big shout out to Touchdown Digital for sponsoring this week's video.
Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all fighting fit and well. Today I've come out to Coachwood Glenn in the Megalong Valley, just over the top of the Blue Mountains, and this area is just amazing. This is a total rainforest. I've got about a 15-minute walk down into the gully here, and this is just absolutely spectacular. You can probably hear the birds. There's lyrebirds, there's kangaroos, there's wombats. There's everything here that you could imagine. And I was here some time ago, but as you know, with landscape changes all the time. And down here, I've got to cross a small creek twice. Now, there's no waterfalls here, but there are some magnificent old Coachwood trees, which are just massive, and there's a lot of vines, and it's very, very green down the bottom. So I'll set up down there and I'll just show you how beautiful this place is, the Megalong Valley in New South Wales, here just over the top of the Blue Mountains. And it really is a spectacular place. We've got sort of like overcast sort of morning here. It's just after 6 a.m. and not too bad, but I think this is going to be a nice sort of morning here. So I'll pack up, get down there, restart it, and I'll show you some of the compositions that hopefully I could obtain. So let's go. Well, I've found my first composition here, and as you can see, just behind me here, we've got, it's not a waterfall, it's just a runoff from the creek here. And looking at over here, we've got the flow there, the flow up the top. So this is a three-tiered image. This is really a spectacular place. This, as I said, I was here many years ago, and it's just trying to jog my memory as to how good this place actually is. And I'm surrounded by these twisted ferns and tree roots, and it's like nature's at war with itself here. And by geez, this is something else. And I know I'm biased because I live about 15 minutes from here, but my God, this is something else. And yeah, I'll use this composition here. Then I'll go up the top, up there. There's another composition I've found a bit earlier on this morning. But it, yeah, this is a place which is just so old. These Coachwood trees are massive, and a few of them have come down and they're just giants of trees. But this is a beautiful place, and it's so green. I can't believe how green it is. I'll be using the Nisi landscape circular polarizer. Now the problem there is that Nisi circular polarizer is that good that I can't crank it all the way up, because just looking at this scene now, if I was to take this scene without using any filtration, such as a polarizer, you would think that I'd have to adjust the luminance or the saturation levers in Lightroom, because it's that green here. I'd have to be a little bit careful with what I do here with the polarization. So I'll set up, I'll get this camera ready, and then I'll show you the image and exactly what I'm doing. But it is, as you can see, it's very dark here. It's 6:30 in the morning, but I've got this massive tree canopy over me, so shutter speeds are going to be slow. But yeah, look, fantastic. Let's get started. Okay, I'm ready to take this shot now. The first composition, as I said, is in that area there, and then up leading into that. The light hasn't changed here, it's still very dark. I've had to raise the ISO to 200. I'm at F11 because I really want everything to be in focus, virtually from where I am at the front to the back. No need to focus stack here. I will lower the camera a bit lower later on. This tripod doesn't have a center column, so I can do that. Not a fan of center columns, quite frankly. But yeah, I'll take this shot and we'll see how we go. But it's just so green through here. Keeping in mind, when you're shooting in RAW, when you see the image on the back of the camera, you're actually looking at a JPEG file. You're not looking at the actual RAW negative, because that's what RAW is. So we'll take this shot and we'll see how we go. Get the focusing right, spot on. Two-second timer, and we'll see how we go. Okay, that's finished now. We'll just check it. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Probably on the bottom of the frame there. I should have cropped it a bit, but the next shot I can do that. I will take a portrait shot, or portrait orientation, because this is a very narrow chasm, I think that's what they call it, through there, and basically it'll eliminate what's on the sides of the frame here. Because as you can see, this is a massive leading line going straight up through the middle. There's no wind here, so none of the ferns are moving, so I'm not having any problems with shutter speeds, to be quite frank with you. It's still very dark here, but all around me here there's so much composition, like just over here. I mean, here's another free tip. When you're out doing this, always look behind you, because sometimes the better shots are behind you, not in front. I don't know how that works, but it just does. And I'm looking over here and I've got these black boy ferns, and this is like a fairy tale, this place, seriously. So I'm going to take a few more shots. There's a spot over there that I want to go to, and I want to get the camera down low because I'll take a few more shots with this lens. It's a 17-40 f4 Canon lens, but I've also brought with me the Samyang 14mm Ultra Wide angle lens, which is just an insane lens for the price, and I will switch out the lenses and change that over, and then I'm going to show you what sort of filter system you can use with the 14mm ultra wide lenses. There's a lot of people saying that you can't use filters with them. Well, you can, but unfortunately they are so expensive. Seriously, I mean, it's just so dear, the filters for them, because they're so big. The glass is so big. They're 150s. They're 100s normally we use, but on the Samyang it's 150, and the filter holder is made by Nisi. That comes in at about $225 just for the filter holder, and then the filters are over $210, $220 each. So all in all, I've got probably $1,500 worth of filters to go on the front of a $500 lens. So for the price of the filters, I could have brought 3 of the lenses, but this lens has a cult following, and I'll explain a bit later on when I switch out the lenses and get down really low, because that's how you've got to use these ultra wide angle lenses. You've got to get down low at a 45-degree angle so you don't get that Moe effect or the barrel distortion, and use it. It's more of an artistic sort of lens to use, ultra wide angles, and I've got a couple of them. But I'll take a few more shots and then I'll switch out the lenses and I'll talk to you about this Samyang 2.8. Okay, I'm satisfied now with the images I've taken in this area here. I am now going to lower the camera and take a couple more shots with the 17-40. Currently shooting at around about 20mm. Then I'll switch over to the 14mm fixed focal length Samyang. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about, especially if you're new to photography, with your focusing. Now, what I like to do is to use autofocus at the beginning, get the focusing right, and then I switch over to manual focus. And then on the back of the camera, you will have, looks like a tennis racket or a magnifying glass. The idea is to focus about 1/3 of the way into the image. Now, that way, at f11, that's a fairly sweet spot for this particular lens. You're going to get everything virtually pin sharp. So by using the autofocus first, getting that correct, then switching over to manual focus, then really pinpoint your focusing 1/3 of the way in, which is probably sort of like in the little pool there. You can probably see it on the video, just there. And switch to manual focus. Then you hit the magnifying button, and then you can fine tune your focusing. It is one of the best ways of focusing. Seriously, it's never let me down over the years, especially when we moved into the digital era. But look, you know, I've just looked at that shot now. Everything's spot on. The colour of the rocks are absolutely magnificent. Haven't used much polarisation here because of how green it is. But yeah, I can't wait to put these into post edit and just tweak them a little bit. But I'll show you a couple of these images now, and then I'll come back to you when I move with a lower camera angle, and then I'll switch out those lenses and I'll talk to you about the Samyang 14mm ultra wide angle. Okay, as you can see, I've now put the camera in portrait mode, and only because of I'm trying to capture this length of this sort of like chasm or whatever they call it over there. I'm not quite sure what they do call these type of situations, but as you can see, the moss and the green is just outstanding. The colours are just going to pop once I finish doing this. Now people say to me, when should I take a portrait shot? Well, it's very simple. Straight after you take a landscape shot, just revert the camera into the portrait mode from landscape. So that's how you do it. When do you take a portrait orientation shot? Straight after you do a landscape shot. Just remember that and just try it, because you will get a different perspective. I will take this shot. Now, we'll just wait for that to process. But the better shot in the portrait mode is over here, just down on my left, where I can shoot up into the ravine sort of thing there, I suppose that's what we should call it. But I think that will be a better shot. This is just a really magnificent place, and look, considering what's happened in New South Wales over the last 4 months, it's just so good to get out. All right, we'll just have a look at this shot. Yeah, that's nice. Very good, I'm happy with that one, but I think the better shot is behind me here. So that's another good thing. Just don't set up your tripod and leave it stuck in one spot. Don't do that. Move around. Do a bit of surveillance work here and start looking. And every time I look here, there's so many different compositions, so probably won't get them all done today. I think I'm gonna have to come back here, quite frankly. So I'll move the camera over there, get down a bit lower, shoot up, and then I'll switch out the lenses. Okay, now this is a really beautiful composition I've got going here. It's in portrait mode, as you can see. Now I'm using the Benro 3-way geared head, as you can see here. I've got the camera angle down at about a 45-degree angle. I am shooting at 17mm, so that's fairly wide. And that encompasses a lot of these rocks. And with the circular polarizer from Nisi, it's starting to, I can really see through that water. And this water is crystal clear too, by the way. You can drink this water, you can actually drink it. You can actually swim in it, but I can tell you now, it's about 4 degrees here and it's absolutely freezing. So this will be a very, very good shot, because I've encompassed, this image is fairly what we call heavy, because it's got a lot of foreground element. Excuse me. So when you're using wide angle lenses, and it'll be even more dramatic when I do switch it out a bit later on with the Samyang, it pays dividends to really get a lot of the foreground in, because what you're trying to do here, you're trying to lead the viewer's eye from the rocks all the way through to that little mini waterfall, then up into the second one and up into the ravine. So this is a three composite image, so to speak. So really when using wide lenses or ultra wide lenses, you really want to capture as much foreground element, and because the foreground's just going to jump up and virtually hit you in the face when you look at the image. So, but with the three-way geared head, what I'm able to do is really fine-tune the composition. Now, there's a bit of sky showing up here. I don't want that. I never put that in my images around these sort of places. It just mucks around with your exposure, and I don't like playing around with that. I like to try and get much of it as I can done in camera before I put it into post. So, but this is a real good piece of gear to use, the Benro three-way geared head. It's very, very good. As you can see, I think you can see it on the video, I can just turn it that way, left or right, or up or down. This is the one I like, the one that goes up or down, like at 45 degree. So if I go up here like this, I've got too much sky up the top of the frame, and I don't want that. So I want to bring that back down this way. Now the sky's disappearing, a little bit more, and that's about right. So that should look really, really nice once I finish putting it through post. But I'll take that image and I'll show you right now. Okay, I'm now switched over to the Samyang 14mm 2.8, and it is an amazing lens. This lens has an actual cult following with landscape photographers. Now, it costs a retail about $500, this lens. This lens is a total manual only lens. There's no contact points on the back of the lens for the contact points. So when the lens is on the camera cannot register anything. It's like the camera doesn't recognise, well, it doesn't know that it's got a lens attached to it. This Samyang 14mm does come in autofocus for all brands of cameras. That'll set you back around about $700, $750. But really, it is an absolute fantastic lens to use for the price. Now, I've got an 11-24 Canon f4, which cost me $4,000. And I use that lens for this type of photography, but also for my professional work. I don't really bring it out into the landscape, that lens, but it is an absolute bottler of a lens. But for $4,000, I mean, you'd expect that. That's quality glass. That's probably one of Canon's most expensive, well, wide-angle lenses. Actually, it is. It's a wide-angle zoom 11-24 f4 at $4,000. That's what it costs you. This Samyang lens, 14mm fixed focal length, and that's probably why I brought it for $500 in manual form. Now, this lens has a manual aperture ring on the outside, which you just turn like so. I'm currently at f11. Everything's manual on it, manual focus, manual aperture adjustment on the outside of the lens. Now, this lens comes with a fixed lens hood. The lens hood doesn't come off. So how do you use filters? There's no filter thread on the front of the lens, and it has a beautiful bulb front, this Samyang lens, and the glass is quite good. Samyang have really improved this lens. I've got to say, I mean, if you haven't got this in your camera bag, you're doing yourself an injustice, because quite frankly, I use this lens, or the wide angle lenses, in landscape photography probably 6 times a year. And in this instance, I know that I've got a lot of composition in this area. So this is where this ultra wide angle lens comes into play. Now, you can use filters with it, but they're huge. As you can see here, I have the Nisi Filter Holder. That's 150 millimetres, so it's a massive filter holder. That comes in at about $225 just the filter holder, so it is expensive. This is a circular polarizer, would you believe? It's a square one, it's 150 by 150. It's massive. So basically, you can use filters with this lens. There's a lot of misconceptions out there on YouTube that you can't use filters with this lens. Well, you can. Nisi have come up with this filter holder, but as I said, it's very, very expensive and it's huge. You actually can turn it like that to work the circular polarizer. Now this is glass. This was around about $200, this one. So there I automatically got $425 just in these two items. But having said that, I also use half soft grads. I've got 2 of those, and I've got 3 full NDs. That's $1,500 worth of filters to go on a $500 lens. Now you might think I'm crazy, but that's just what it is. I mean, you want the ultra wide angle, getting down low, which I will do here in a minute with all these moss covered rocks. Magnificent place this. So basically, it's a beautiful lens to use. It's got a really nice grip here for the focus. Now it does have a long focus pull. In other words, you keep on turning, keep on turning, keep on turning, keep on turning until you get to the other end of the focus range. So it comes with a few problems. This particular Samyang lens, it does have vignetting. Now I've already got vignetting in the lens now. I can see it, dark around the edges, but that can be alleviated in post-edit. It does have barrel distortion like a lot of wide angle lenses, especially ultra wide angle lenses, but that again can be corrected in Lightroom Photoshop. And it has a bit of pin cushioning, a bit of softening, and that also can be corrected in post-edit with Lightroom and Photoshop. So those 3 issues can be eradicated within seconds. So don't let that put you off buying a lens, this particular lens. I mean, if you're not into really wide angle photography but you really want one, I suggest you look at this Samyang 14mm 2.8 fixed focal length. It's a bottler of a lens, and the focusing is pin sharp from virtually my feet all the way to infinity. It's just insane how good it is. And look, I never really do camera or lens reviews, but in this instance I've owned this lens for 3 years and I feel compelled to tell people about it. It's just a cracker of a thing to use. Now I'm going to get really low. The focusing I can get as close as 30 centimeters. So 30 centimeters, that's a ruler length. So that's going to give me a massive foreground element, and I've found a beautiful composition here, and I will turn that camera around so you can see what I'm doing. But basically, yeah, look, it's just a beautiful lens to use for the money. Seriously, I really can't talk highly enough about it, really. It's I know a lot of people that have got them and they just love using them, but they are an artist type of lens, and I only use it probably 5-6 times a year, same with the Canon lens, because I need to have a lot of foreground element for these particular lenses to work. And that's the secret to ultra wide angle lenses. You've got to get down low and you've got to angle the camera down at a 45 degree, as you can see, and this is where the geared head comes in really handy, because I've got a gauge on here that gives me my what will we call it, like the degree of angle on the side here, so I know exactly what I'm doing. But it focuses well, meaning it's obviously it's manual. The only problem is you've really got to know how to use a manual lens, and I crafted myself with photography with a manual lens. That's how I learnt the craft of photography, with all manual equipment. So, but this lens for me is a no-brainer. I mean, as I said, you can get it in autofocus for an extra couple $100, but by geez, even go and rent one just to try it. But it's a really, really good lens, and seriously, the couple of problems, as I said, the vignetting, the pin cushioning, and the barrel distortion, that can be overcome those problems can be wiped out in Photoshop or Lightroom within seconds. So don't let that stop you from looking at buying this particular lens if you don't want to spend a lot of money on an ultra wide angle lens. So what I'll do, I'll fit this this 150mm piece of glass through here. As you can see, it's such, I've got big hands. You can see how big this filter holder is. So just slide it in, got to be very careful. Right, she's in. Okay, so all I've got to do now is focus on what I'm trying to photograph here. And to get this polarization right, I just turn the filter holder like so. It's a brilliant system. Nisi's a great company to deal with, actually. So we just turn it like that. Everything's in place. There you go. But as you can see, the size of it, it dwarfs the camera. It's a massive unit hanging off the front of the lens here. And but yeah, they're just so expensive, unfortunately, but it is what it is. It doesn't come with a filter cap. It comes with what I call not a filter cap, a lens cap, because there's no thread. It comes with this. Look at the size of it. And I'll show you why in a minute, why it's like that. So, but that's it. That's the Samyang 14mm f2.8 fixed focal length lens, manual version. It's a manual version lens. Everything's manual. So I'm not getting a readout in the back of the screen. I just got to know what settings I need and what shutter speeds and ISOs and things like that. But if you know photography, well, you'd automatically know. You don't even have to look at the camera. So I'll take a few shots and I'll show you these shots at the end of this video. But other than that, I'll come back to you very shortly and show you the front element of the Samyang 14mm 2.8. Well, that's it, folks. That's another good morning here at the Megalong Valley in the Blue Mountains. It's still very cold here. It's only about 6 degrees in the gully here, and I'm starting to lose my voice, but it's been a good morning. I took some, I think, some really nice shots. Gave the Samyang 14mm f2.0 a good workout, and as you can see, the size of the filters are just ridiculous. But oh boy, I can't wait to get those images back in post and work on them. But I think this is something else, this lens, and the filters that go with it. I know they're expensive, but that is what it is. But other than that, it's been a good morning here. There's been a couple of people walking through. They didn't come down here. They just kept on going up the further track up there. But I got some good shots though, and it's a beautiful location, this, here in the Megalong Valley. And I'll put the description of how to get here in the bottom part of this video, at the base of the video, in the comments, in the description. I'll just explain to you how to get here if you're from Sydney. It's about a 90-minute drive from the centre of Sydney, and it's just a beautiful location to come here. Really is. It's prehistoric, really. But yeah, as I said, I got some really good shots. Very happy with it. Just a quick shout out too, by the way, I've had three workshops this week, 3 of them, which is quite encouraging. And I know the people are probably watching that attended my workshops here during the week. I want to say thank you for attending those workshops. I know that you did take some nice images, and I hope you learnt something by coming out to my workshops. So thank you for that. Thank you for participating in those workshops this week. Now, next week, I'll be on the central coast of New South Wales, and there's a couple of places there that I've been wanting to photograph for some time. And I will be using this bad boy as well, plus the lens that I'm currently using, or the lens I used earlier on the camera, is 17-40. But other than that, we're getting sunlight coming through here now, and it's just about over here for me. So, but look, if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and the bell next door so you don't miss anything. Really appreciate you subscribing to this channel. My channel's all about teaching you photography and how to get it right in camera. But yeah, look, I hope you like the images. Let me know what you think of them. But It's been a spectacular morning at a beautiful place here in the Megalong Valley in the Blue Mountains. So that's it, folks, and as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep shooting and keep smiling. Bye for now. Coffee time.